welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for when it's 16 degrees or when it's 18 degrees or when it's 72 Fahrenheit. Joining us today, and that was just an absolutely nonsense intro. They're an informative creator of content, I was going to say, because I don't like the phrase content creator, and I've been racking my brains to come up with something else. I'm just coming up short. It's joining me. It's Maggibot. It's Marguerite Cottrell. There you go. I don't know how bad that was. Hello.
You did so great. That was such an intro.
There you go. How are you?
I am okay. How are you?
I am sweltering. It's far too hot in Scotland. We're not used to the sunshine, and it means that you can potentially try and play board games outside, but it depends what you're playing outside. You want something that's got like really heavy stuff. You know, there's no point in trying to play a card game because it'll probably just like blow away, which is not very good. You have to play like
tile-based something or abstract or something.
Azul.
Hive. Something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Hive. Because that's... Yeah. Well, you can actually...
You can't ruin Bakelite. You can throw that in the river.
Yeah, you can't even have that, you know. You'd probably play that in an electrical storm and it would be fine. Mudslide. You'd be digging out the Hive later.
But Hive will always be fine.
They're going to be the scientists are going to be discovering Hive in thousands of years, and they're going to think it's us like some kind of communicative language that we used of insects, and everybody else is going to...
Maybe we revered bugs so much that we had made these Bakelite pieces.
Damn it. Currency's such a better thing.
Oh no. I'll put that in my score column.
It's 1-0. I didn't realise it was going to go like this. For people who are joining us for the first time, thank you for joining us. The reason that we do this is because there's not enough podcasts out there about board games. Continue to check iTunes. I can't even find a section on iTunes about it. And the other reason that we do this is because I like to speak to people in the hobby and not necessarily designers or artists or, you know, developers or creators. I like to speak to other people who are creating fantastic media to inform you about the hobby. So I was asking Maggibot to come on and she graciously said yes. So thanks for coming on.
I think Bez piped up one day where you were asking, like, who should we interview? And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah. She's fantastic. She always gets... Yeah, she either is very informative or she continually just gets me in trouble. One or t'other. I mean, obviously, we're just going to chat about, you know, yourself. I think, okay. You know, I want to know about, you know, obviously what you're bringing to the hobby, but it'd be interesting to kind of find out a little bit more about your history with the printed and pressed trees. So you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into the hobby, kind of like in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So I did not play any like real, you know, the board games that we know as board games now until I moved to Seattle in 2009, so 2009, 2010 was the first time I'd ever seen one. Like, back home, we played a lot of, like, parlor games like cribbage and casino and spades and stuff like that, but then I moved to this big city, and they had game stores, and they're just lined the shelves with all of these games, and I felt like I'd been kind of missing something. And so I dived in with both feet. I picked up, and I've said this on a couple of podcasts, but most of them were in the United States, so of course none of your listeners have heard this. But my first game was Race to the Galaxy. And so I went home and tried to figure out this mind-bending amount of, you know, symbols and cards and things, and I was so used to being very good at games that it was trying to defeat me, so I got very like, I will win. And I played it for a couple days in a row with my then boyfriend, and I really enjoyed it. And then I picked up, I will not tell you how much I spent the next time I went to a game store, but it was a lot of money. And I just started like playing anything anyone would put on a table in front of me, and I went to meetup after meetup after meetup. And so I really just once I like something, I just want to know everything about it. I want its history. I want like the full scope of it. And I just wandered into a game store that was hiring a couple years later, and I ended up picking up a job there. And so that was kind of my first foray into the retail side.
All right.
And so 7 years later now, I'm working in the industry in the retail distribution chain for a company called PSI, who you may never have heard of, and that's okay because we're all kind of behind the scenes. But I help you get games into stores is all that matters, right?
You got the important work here. This
That's
is the
right.
important job. I was going to say, did you spend so much money when you were kind of like, when you were first getting into the hobby, that you were actually made Employee of the Month by accident because you were in the game store so often?
I definitely did spend a large chunk of money to, but there's a blessing and a curse to living in Seattle that you could go somewhere every day for a year and the people that work there might not recognize you. We're just not that city.
Do you? I mean, it's like a shame thing. Did you end up kind of like, I'm going to have to put a hat on today, not wear my glasses?
No. I have no shame. Like, I have literal no shame. I will go in and spend my stupid amounts of money. I guess I have slight regrets of listening to other people tell me what I should play and what I shouldn't, because I ended up with a lot of really awful games at first. I had the best time just, like, playing things and making up my own mind, but it took me a minute to just elbow people out of my way that were trying to tell me what the best games were. It took a minute.
Do you still have Race for the Galaxy, first of all? I mean, that's the important question.
I have it, but I don't play it much anymore. I think I've gotten my lifetime plays out of it. And that's in the 100 plus range.
Wow.
So I think I'm good. I'm done.
It's like, but you got to keep it because it's your first game. You can't kind of get rid of that.
Every
that would
once
be
in a while, someone will want to learn it and I'll teach it. I don't play in the teaching game anymore. So I've learned this lesson. For things like Race for the Galaxy and another favorite of mine, Innovation. The learning curve is such that if you've played 5 games, you will stomp the person at their first game. And it won't be fun for them, that kind of stomping.
Yeah.
So I'll teach it to others now. I don't really participate.
But that was a strange kind of heavy-ish game, because I've seen Race for the Galaxy. I've seen somebody else try to explain Race for the Galaxy. I think I was involved in, what was I doing? I think I was like unboxing Wasteland Express delivery service, and you know how you've got all the trays and everything, so you have to pop everything, and then you're putting everything in kind of like the game trays. So it takes like 2 hours to organise this game, but once you've organised it, it takes like 2 minutes. But during that time, I heard somebody try to explain Race to the Galaxy to somebody else. And it's like when you're like, say, maybe doing your ironing, but you've got something on Netflix at the same time. So I was kind of like, yeah, okay.
So
no.
I have this like, and I didn't know this is an undiscovered, like I'm a stupid human trick type thing. I'm really good at explaining games for the most part. We all have our missteps. I have my bad days, but for some reason there's something about what I can do in interpreting a rule and giving it to another human that they'll understand it. So I didn't realize quite how hard that game was to teach until I worked at a game store and was trying to teach it to someone, and then hear them try and teach it to their wife or whomever. And that game is just, it's mind-boggling. It's just, I'm surprised that it did as well as it did at the time that it came out. But I can see why, because it's so genius. But the barrier to entry is really high.
Is it the rule book, or is it the actual complication of the game? Because I've seen barriers to entry on games, like, say, Cry Havoc, for instance.
Oh, Cry Havoc. Ugh. Such a shame, because that game is so good.
It is good, but the rule book...
But Portal doesn't really focus on rulebooks that much, or they do, but they don't do it in a way that those of us on the end user side would be super happy with. But
no, but bless Rodney Smith and all that sailing him, because if it wasn't for him, I'd still be sitting there going, the rulebook would probably be thrown into a couple of pieces and just say, do you know what? I'm going to make up my own rules just to play along. But no, I mean, that's kind of like...
The rulebook is not terrible. There's one rule that if I were to design the game today, oh yes, I'm going to take this masterpiece of a game and make it better. But there is one rule in there. It's the consume step, which the game is done over, 6 phases or something.
Yeah.
So the consume step, the way that it's worded and the way that it works is really confusing to a new player. And it's the kind of thing that if that game were designed tomorrow by the same exact designer, it would probably be cleaned up.
Yeah.
It just, for the time that it was made, it was absolutely perfect, but we've learned so much now in how to give people rules that they can use. It's very rare that I see a game that just has one of those really bad pits in it that you just can't get out of. The consume step is just confusing and weird and hard to get used to.
Other games that you prefer to jump into? I mean, with Race for the Galaxy being like your first one, is there kind of types of games that'll you'll prick up your ears and you'll be, oh, gotta play this?
Yeah. I am a cube pusher. Like, anything you tell me it's like a Euro with a bunch of complex mechanisms, I am probably sold already. So, like, I'm really into whatever Vital Lacerda does, and I'm a Steffenfeld head. I'm like 50-50 on Steffenfeld games, which I kind of like. Because I think half the time he designs for a different audience than me. And sometimes it's just these genius, like, crazy mechanisms that all kind of balance each other and make for really dynamic plays. I like anything that's just, the mechanisms are what gets me. It's all that, like, puzzling through of trying to make everything work for you. Anything What's Your Game publishes is my kind of game. Would you,
if somebody walks up to you and they've never played games before, are you likely to go into the kind of the gateway side of things, or would you have gone into the gateway side of things, or would you just say, right, feast for Odin, sit down?
So I do have a lot of experience with this particular thing, and I kind of take and this is going to be the crappiest thing I say all day, I take a sommelier approach.
Right.
I get a sense of their personality if I don't already know them. I ask them a little bit about their childhood gaming and what they liked and didn't like. Like, if you hated every time your brother, like, stole something from you in trouble, like, at least that tells you a little bit about what kind of gameplay they enjoy. And then you just, feel it out from there. We have so much gaming to, like, choose from these days. I feel it's silly to identify, 6 games as the gateway games and to ignore everything else. I'd say the most common one I do, if I'm not going to start someone on those lightish games, I'll either do St. Petersburg or Glenmore as someone's, like, first Euro.
Baby's first Euros. I was going to say that.
It's Glenmore, St. Petersburg, like, anything in that, like, it's got a cool little twist on it, but it's not super overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, is there stuff at the games? I mean, do you have, like, a huge collection of games? Have you just kept going?
It's not huge compared to a lot of my friends.
I'd like numbers, please.
Anywhere from 300 to 400. Maybe.
It's 425 in it. It's 425, isn't it?
They're pouring out of closets. I have them stashed, like, anywhere and everywhere that could hold a game. There's a game, including inside themselves. There's games inside of game boxes in my house.
You've got board game Inception.
Yes, exactly. 'Cause sometimes there's so much extra room that you can just shove a couple more games in it, and it's fine.
It's like Splendor. What have you got in your Splendor box? I've got Scythe and Viticulture inside the Splendor. I've seen somebody actually take the Splendor box and shrink it all the way down and say, this is the actual size of the box.
Oh, I love that when it turns into like a matchbox size.
Exactly.
Right?
It's kind of like back pocket. It's like what's in my back pocket? One side I've got my mobile phone, the other side I've got my miniature version of Splendor, and it's really difficult to tell the difference between the two.
My friend Sue's actually made me a travel Splendor when Splendor first came out. It was like on mini cards with these tiny little poker chips, so it fit in a deck box, like a regular deck box.
That's pretty cool. Do you still carry it about with you?
That's not my carry around game, but. It's just not my favorite game on earth, but that's fine.
What's your carry around game then? This is a whole new thing. You actually have a game that you carry around with you at all times.
Oh, I have purse games. I have they go through trends too. They change around a little bit.
Oh dear. What's the current game?
So the all time is No Thanks. Like you can just bring No Thanks to anything. Yeah. Another one I carry around, which is kind of unique to me, is Oddball Aeronauts.
Oh, right.
You ever met Nigel and them? You guys are at least on the same part of the world.
Yeah.
But, and then the one that I've been bringing around the most lately, let's see, I put all of Junk Orbit into a Ziploc and carried that around.
Are you like the person that's like, if you were stuck in an elevator, you'd want to be stuck in an elevator with you? And it's like, if somebody says you get the call through, he says, engineer's been here, he says it's going to be like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and everyone's like tutting, sitting around, and you're like going, I know what we can do, I've got a choice.
You want in that elevator is you want me and you want a mother, because I'll have the games and the mother will have snacks, right? You need someone with kids.
I got cheese crackers right here. What else have you got? I brought cheese. I got grapes. I got some sandwiches.
Right, because you have children. You're probably carrying around like tissues and snacks and all kinds of stuff. I don't have children, so I can carry around games.
I usually have to carry around my wallet, to be perfectly honest.
What's your wallet going to do for you in an elevator?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing at all. I don't think I've got a set of dice. I've actually got a set of dice in my wallet. Oh my goodness.
What do you play with a set of dice in your wallet?
I have no idea.
Just like impromptu D&D session? Exactly. Anywhere, anytime.
Just in case. Do you know what I mean? I could play you're stuck in an elevator game. What class do you want to be? Engineer?
So, if you're stuck in an elevator, what RPG do you play? Do you just play do you just start as you're stuck in an elevator? Roll to see what happens?
I think that's what you'd do. I think you would do some kind of, there's a murderer in the elevator type of thing. And you would just get, you would just get somebody to lie on the ground, and they could be the person that's been, not here. And then everybody else has to guess who the actual murderer is, Or you could do anything at all. You could say you're stuck in a cell. It's anything. It's, it's the imagination could kind of flow anywhere. I would probably just end up saying, could somebody else GM, because I'm not very good at GMing. I've not got a good imagination. So I mean, it's like, Mum, do you not know any stories we could play? She said, no, but does anybody, I've got some sandwiches, I've got some bologna, anybody hungry need some kind of food?
I think that's a better way to go anyway.
Do you manage the collection then? I mean, do you ever call, do you sell, do you have to kind of get rid of a lot of things? We've gotten
to a point now, so most of my collection, 90% of my collection are just games that I buy. I just want to play the games, I want to teach them to people, I want to bring them places. But there's 10% that people just hand me at shows and things. Yeah. Because I go to a lot of cons, I go to a lot of places. Yeah. And I really appreciate when people do that. I try and tell them not to if I don't think I'm going to keep it. But most of the time they just, they want to, it's a goodwill thing. So I try and find someone in my life to gift those to. My sister and my nieces get a lot of games. A few select friends around town get a lot of games from me. And then about twice a year, I try and do an actual sale of things that maybe I got my plays out of, or I'm not really happy with anymore. A million different reasons. But I do try and cull them down so that they don't literally take over my house.
Are you a bit of an enabler then? I mean, are you expanding people? I mean, on the other side of it, I know you say, I give out these games, but is it on the proviso that you could go around their house and potentially get it back?
No. This is theirs. I don't want it.
This is a storage plan. Have you got a spreadsheet of all the games that you've handed out and went, I better go and ask if I can borrow that?
No, my personal policy about a game, especially under the $20 mark, and this is the same for books and music or almost anything, is that if you loan out a book or a game and it's under $20 and they really like it, you're probably not getting it back. You should just accept that and move on. I think I have purchased more copies of Deep Sea Adventure. I think I've purchased maybe 6 or 7 copies now in my life.
Is that the game that's in the little mint box that you've got? You've got the little tiles, and then you've got to go down and get the treasure.
You're gonna need to.
I'm pretty sure. No, I'm pretty sure. It's the one with the oxygen.
It's in a mint box. Yeah, it's a little oink game with the oxygen and blue. Yeah. It's light and lovely. You can pick it up and play it anywhere, and it's that perfect little, we have 20 minutes before dinner gets here or whatever. You put it on the table and yeah.
It's really kind of good. It's really kind of good fun. So in your job, do you get, I don't expect you to go into your job, but do you get kind of like, is it like a little bit of an Aladdin's cave at work? Do you see kind of the samples?
Really? So the good and the bad is that I work remotely. So my company is based in Atlanta and I am in Seattle. So that's, a fair amount,
it's a couple of bus
miles.
journeys. Yeah, that's a bus and you need to have snacks. You need to make sure you're sitting next to the mum on that journey.
So sometimes people will send me samples if they need my opinion on things, but if I'm just selling things or making marketing, I can usually just go by online materials only. Mm-hmm. So really for work, I don't get a lot of physical games, which is, that's fine. That's not what work is about.
No.
I wish I got everything for free.
Yeah, no, but on the other side of it, would you not end up kind of saying, I've got to get a bigger place because...
Well, and I wonder how bad it would look if I'm constantly selling off things of the publishers I work with.
Exactly. You could just say, well, I'm just testing out the distribution model and the retail price this could potentially go for.
Well, because we don't work with a lot of Euro producers. We work with a lot of lighter card games, party games. Oh God, the party games. And so they're just not my personal taste. I can sell them and I can find what's fun in them and who would be the audience, but it's not me to sit around and play those raunchy little card games and stuff like that. It's just not my good times.
Oh dear. Have you ever, we mentioned obviously Bez, but did you ever get a chance have you ever seen or played Yogi or In a Bind?
So I saw them at some trade show over here.
Yeah.
I didn't play them. Again, it's just not my good times, but I think they're adorable. And I really love Bez's Wibble Plus decks, the multi-use cards in one. I always think that's a clever spin.
Yeah. My son loves Yogi. He's gone up, he actually has a record about how many cards he can actually fit about himself. Because if I don't know, for people that haven't played Yogi, basically it's a deck of cards that says you've got to place this card between your thumb and your forefinger, or you've got to place it under your chin, or you've got to place it over one eye, or you've got to place it under your arm, and so on and so forth. But the beauty of the game is that as you play more and more rounds, you've got to keep the other cards that you've already drawn about your person. So you can see these people they look like they've been they've been upper altitude deprived of oxygen and they're getting cramps throughout their bodies as they're lying on the ground, and then you'll hear somebody scream as they've just twisted their elbow in a way that an elbow shouldn't go, and then all of a sudden all you'll hear is, I won!
I love that your example is there where I always think of those Exorcist movies where someone's being possessed. That's what they end up looking like.
You just see their head slowly twisted around. It's oh, watch out.
Yes, exactly.
Barbara's going for it.
They're going to get one more card.
Oh, that's the vertebrae going. Oh dear.
Yeah, I played a game called Dancing Eggs a long while back that was sort of in that same vein. That may be the only time I play one of those. Dancing Eggs is from Haba, and it's got these spongy eggs that you have to tuck under your chin or under your arm or whatever and still bounce the other ones, and it's very difficult.
Is it like the magicians that used to do the magic things with the red balls, and they were foamy balls? Is that kind of thing where they just go? Here's
I wish it was that foamy, but they're more viscous. I don't know. They're like a Warblow. They're solid.
I don't know if I'd like that.
No, it's hard.
I don't know if I would like that.
I had this nightmare too of this tiny child that was in one of the stores I was working at that was throwing those eggs at a light fixture. So maybe I'm just set up to be angry about that game.
Did you say that was a dream or did that actually happen?
No, that actually happened, and then their mother didn't stop them. I was very not happy.
I think there's only one thing to do in that situation, which is to
throw the child out. Just
I was gonna say rugby tackle him to the ground.
Now that might hurt me. So
I suppose Yeah, that's it. As long as you're concentrated on the most important person. I just think it would teach them to not do that ever again. And also they would obviously spread the warning for you. But then probably you would get kids coming in and say, well, let's see how good they are at tackling me, and then run around the shop. It'd end up like some bad kind of American football game. Is there stuff? Is there stuff? That's such a brilliant... Wow, that's a precise question. Are there other There is definitely stuff. And some of it's blue. Are there games at the moment that you are kind of excited to kind of get your hands on, or to have a go of, or get to the table at the moment?
Yes. I played Carthago from Capstone recently. Mm-hmm. So this was a remake of a game I had never played before, because it was, I think, a little bit before I started playing games. And it's just like a really delightful medium weight Euro, which Capstone usually does kind of heavier stuff. And it was just a delightful little game that I played a demo of at Origins. And then I took it home and I told all my friends, oh, it's just like light and stress-free, and we'll play it through. And then I played it for the full game all the way through, and I was like, oh wow, this is tighter and way more difficult than I thought it was. I'm like, I tricked you all, I'm sorry.
You getting stares at. Did you get rugby tackled as you walked out the door? Don't bring that game back in again, please.
I'm gonna have to force it on a different group now, because I think that group is done with me.
It's just like, well, everybody's kind of feigned going, well, I don't know about you, but I'm tired after that game. And then, yep, okay, see you later, Maggie, bye. And you're like, it's 8:30. I know. But it's getting dark outside. It's like, it's summertime. I know, bye. I mean, do you see, is it other ones that you're looking at? I mean, do you ever venture into kind of like the Kickstarter realm as well? I mean, I guess nature your job.
Many a game. I think I'm at like 150. Something stupid.
You're like a super backer.
Yeah, well, I think they give super backer at like 20 games or something.
No, they don't. It's 100.
Oh god, don't tell me that. I don't know. I was past the point before they started doing the super backer stuff. Let me just put it that way. You
just got the email through saying you've got the badge, and it's like a badge of shame.
It's a badge. It is. It's like, calm down now, everyone. We don't need to advertise. Well, I do a lot of Kickstarter, but I also kickstart, like, anything that's going to go to retail in a regular sense. I'll just kickstart for $1 to help spread the word if I think that they need it, and then I'll buy it at retail later. I was much more a fan of Kickstarter in the olden days. When I started kickstarting stuff back in my day, you would pay people money for their dream, and it was like their tiny little dream that they had no hope of actually doing.
That's so funny.
And you'd hand them money, and it would go away, and you'd probably never see something out of it. And I just found it more charming.
When you're doing that, do you actually say to people, "Now, Sonny, I remember when Kickstarter began, and this was nothing but fields, and now look at it.
Look at it."
Look at it now. Look at the state of it. These people that are backing Kickstarter now, they had no idea what it was like 4 years ago. These young whippersnappers coming in.
Watching people do their formula, like Kickstarter, you can basically predict what everything will look like, the colors they'll use, the graphic design they'll use, the shape of the cards, the weight of the cards. Everything is so formulaic now. It's not as charming at all anymore. You get better product, of course. But the game quality is about the same, so I don't know that that's much better.
Is it a lack of innovation? Do you think there's a lack of innovation? Because I still see nice little games coming out, like, Seize the Bean, which was quite...
I backed it, but I haven't played it yet.
I haven't seen it yet. I think there's still
I was like, well, no, I haven't seen it. No, I totally backed it, because it looked fresh and different with a different perspective. Yeah. Like, it looked neat. And I think, no, I'm not, like, bitter at all about how successful most Kickstarters are. I think we have 3,000 games coming out a year now, even worldwide. This is mostly English-speaking countries that I can quote that from. And, of those 3,000, only X amount are going to be both good and in my wheelhouse. But because there are 3,000 now, the number of games that I will like is probably more than 5 or 6 years ago when there weren't quite as many coming out. So overall, I'm probably being better served. It's hard to get through all that noise. Like, Seize the Bean, I almost didn't know about. I just found it on a lark, I think. I actually looked through all of Kickstarter tabletop games one day.
I think we had them on the show, but one of the reasons that we kind of came on the show was because they had like the actual sugar cubes and the actual beans, and I was like, I have to speak to these people. I need to find out what's kind of going on. I don't know. I had like Joseph Chen who did Fantastic Factories, and that seemed like a really, really cute game. And there was and then Assembly at Janice Turner from Assembly on.
I've backed all the things you've mentioned, so I feel good. And Joseph is local to me, so
yeah, Joseph is really, really nice. Fire Tower. Did you see Fire Tower?
No.
Oh,
no.
Potentially, but it's maybe quite light. I don't know. Did you see the announcement from Monolith about what they're doing with that? And
honestly, Monolith has done nothing but upset me since they started. So they're gonna do what they're doing. I'll be on the other side. It's fine.
Have you thought about getting those little foamy egg things and just chucking it at
just chucking it on them.
Or even better, give them some and say, if you hit that light, I'll back your game.
No, what I thought about doing is literally like going through like MS Paint and putting clothes on people and handing it back to them. Just like a little copy paste.
That's not fair. That's not. It is true. It's kind of true.
It's pretty true for their games, but the whole like they're not doing through retail, which totally makes sense to me. That their games are not really retail appropriate. I totally agree. Their margins don't work for retail.
Yeah.
But then for them to be like, no, this isn't actually a pre-order now. I get it. It's business smart, but so much of gaming was built on passion and people doing the things but not really business acumen, that for someone to make such a business forward decision is really off-putting to a lot of us, even though it shouldn't be. Like, we should recognize that as what it is, and like that's a smart decision to make, but all of us are like, ugh, not the spirit of the thing.
I think everybody's saying that at the moment. I'm not sure. I'm yet to see what happens. I just, my bugbear with it, as with always, is that I ain't gonna get Monolith coming on the show. I mean, I've had Mantic on the show. I've had somebody from Steamforged on the show. Yeah. I'm continually talking to Simon about them getting on the show, and I've now had the court order through to say not emailing them anymore, which is always fun. But then as I say, we get, the smaller guys, not the smaller guys, because that's not fair, because Joseph did like 100,000. He ended up like at $150,000.
Steamforged, you're talking to the guys with the Dark Soul license. That's like a huge
exactly.
deal.
Yeah, they did a couple of million. But I'm concerned about the guys that are coming on with targets of 15,000, 20,000. Just if Kickstarter's going to turn into this kind of, it's a brilliant deal, look, you can pre-order it. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if that should then be, well, you're in a different section of Kickstarter, because my concern is they're still going to stick Monolith right in the middle among everybody else, and it's just going to be this pre-order thing. And I don't know.
Well, and here's my other beef with that, and you kind of touched on it, was that the Kickstarter goal about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I have the benefit, luckily, of knowing a lot of people that make Kickstarter games. And there started to be a trend of, instead of putting your goal at whatever the actual number of dollars you needed was, they would put this really low goal so they instantly fund. And then they would have in their minds like a dollar amount that they needed to hit to actually send through the product. So maybe their goal was 6,000, but they actually needed 32,000 or even higher. And if they weren't approaching that number quick enough, or Kicktrack wasn't, saying that they would hit it, they would just cancel their projects. And I thought that was the first step that I saw of Kickstarter becoming something that it wasn't intended to be.
Yeah, it's become commercial. But not in that kind of sense, which is fine because it's a business, and I can understand that and I respect that. And in order for a business to either maintain its edge, maintain where it is, or to grow going forward, you have to look at potentially sometimes doing things which not everybody kind of agrees with, but ends up becoming something like the norm. I see this all the time. I'm seeing kind of guys saying this, and what's your goal? And it's like, well, it's 10k. And it's like, there's no way you're making that game for 10k. And it's like, in retrospect, you find out that actually, if they hit 15, like you said, 15, 16, 17, that actually means that they're not having to dig into the savings in order to make their game actually happen. And I'm like, that's a terrible situation to be in. But then on the flip side of it, you get games like, say, One Last Job, where the top fund for it was like 40k was the funding goal. He made 12k and then the game finished, and it was like, and folk were saying, well, your funding goal's too high. And it's like, no, this is what I need in order to make my game because of the components and everything like that. So he's going to have to come back and probably put the game funding goal at 20 grand instead. Which
I wish people would be just a little bit more honest. Maybe that game doesn't need to be made. If there's not an interest already in the market, and the price of components to what you want to do is too high, then you either need to rejigger and like make a different product, final, like an end product, or maybe that game doesn't need to be on the market. And that's the one thing I wish fewer games got made overall, because I do think that there's just a lot of noise. For every good game, there's 10 bad ones now. And that wasn't necessarily the case 10 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know. It's difficult because I'm always concerned I'm missing out on the little gem that is out there that is going to be kind of fantastic. And you kind of look through it and you can see them, and I can see the other ones, which I'm just saying, you're going to fund, but I don't know if this game is actually not just something else that is already kind of out there. I don't know. It's a difficult one. If your goal
is just to fund, you can go online and you can look at like 3 different websites that'll tell you exactly what you need to put in your game, the things you need to say, and the things that need to be in the styling of the game. And you can fund. Like the formula exists for a reason, because people have just found a very consistent way of getting money into their projects. But if you want to actually make a good game and still find your audience for it, it's a very long process, and not everyone is very good at the beginning part of that, which is finding their people, building the community part. It's a different question, right? Kickstarter is 2 sides of like, either you hit really good on one project and then you just use that same audience over and over and over, like your Tiny Epics do that, or you have to build it from scratch somehow and find people and not just spam them and get them excited and get them to share your stuff. And it's either that, or you just throw some minis in your campaign and put them as a stretch goal as you go.
It's just a nightmare, though. I can imagine. I mean, for you and me doing the social media stuff, I can do that morning, noon, night. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Don't ask me to tie my shoes, though, because I'm rubbish at that. The practicalities of doing something. If I did a Kickstarter, everybody would know about it. Because everything would be, I know how to be noisy. That's on my school reports. But I think, I'd struggle with potentially the design side of things. Maybe I know I could potentially make something look good, but I think what would happen is somebody would play my game and then go, but if you do this, the entire thing breaks. I can run away and kind of win. But then I see these fantastic designers who are just like sitting there going, I missed out on making Noise Class. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing, and I know I'm meant to be launching my Kickstarter in kind of like a couple of weeks. But I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Well, and I think all of us in social media, and I'm going to speak for everyone now, every once in a while, like, someone will get you, right? They'll DM you like, hey, have you seen my Kickstarter? And you're like, hold the phone. Can I talk to you about your approach here? Do you want to have a conversation about social media? So, like, I'd say once a quarter, maybe a little bit more often, I'll take someone aside and I'll just be like, don't auto-DM me first. Let me tell you about your strategy. Let's talk social media. How are you going to do your marketing? And I've had an okay time doing that. A lot of people are really receptive to it, because as soon as I see certain behaviors that, like, oh gosh, there's the Kickstarters that at content creators and then just say, please check out my Kickstarter. Yeah. And you see them trying because they don't quite understand how social media works. So they try whatever they think is going to be the most effective. And so every once in a while, all of us have to take our time out and just give them the 101 version if they're not willing to either research it themselves or hire someone to do it. But
I don't know if you put that into a budget. I mean, I know that
I would.
I know that.
I think it pays in tenfold. Good social media and good marketing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've no doubt of that. I don't think it's something that most people put into an actual budget when they sit down and decide about kind of making the game and stuff like that. Yeah. I think there's a lot of businesses that, well, creators, that would have done a lot well if they had just reached out to people beforehand and just said, guys, you know what you're doing. How do I get this out there? How do I make as much noise as possible? And I have, and I mean, you do get contacted a lot by guys that are saying, well, you know, any chance of coming on the show? And it's like, yeah, when's your campaign? It started Tuesday. And it's like, yeah, come on board, you know, step on board and see kind of where it goes. I see kind of, I see a lot of first time creators becoming kind of like second and third time Kickstarters though, that they're having to maybe run their campaign 2-3 times in order to get themselves
as much as I feel for them, I think it's a great learning process, and I hope that they take it and run with it the next time, because I would much rather see them fail the first time to do that much better their second, third, fourth time than just kind of sneak to their goal, like just barely to their goal the first time and then do that same thing over and over, which you see sometimes where people never really learn their lessons.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the content creation side of things, I hate that phrase. I
know, you can use whatever you like. Say whatever you want. I'm
not going to say noise.
Stuff. Just say stuff. It's fine.
Noise goblin.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's good. I'm a noise goblin. What do? I create noise. I mean, you've been involved in that side of things as well. You do your videos and stuff like that. I mean, what is it? Just a drive to say I'd like to get something out there that's my own. I want to contribute back to the kind of the community that's, or the games themselves, which have given me a lot of enjoyment. I mean, what kind of made you decide you were going to do that?
Yeah, it's definitely multi-purpose. In my previous life, before I was into games, I was very into movies, so I did some movie reviews. Mm-hmm. So when I got into games, and I will say there are some really embarrassing old videos of me doing, like, rules run-throughs.
I'm going to watch them all.
No. But I don't really mind if people watch them now. But when I got into game review, I was like, oh, people do rules and then they give their review. And I kind of watched a lot of content. And I was like, okay, so you should do anywhere, because these are Euros. So 8 to 15 minutes of rules and then about 3 minutes of review. And over time, I very much realized the rules part of it should just be that by itself, kind of like what Rodney and Paul Grogan do.
Yeah.
And review can be as long as you want. I didn't have to stick with this 3 to 5 minute, because I was never going to make my job was never going to be content. I'm never going to be a reviewer as a paying day job. So I can just do whatever I want. So now I vlog when I want. I make lists sometimes, and sometimes I just talk, and sometimes I interview people. And I've had a much better time of it once I just got over having to do something rather than doing whatever I wanted.
It becomes a bit of a pressure thing for you to create kind of videos, create blogs, create podcasts and stuff like that. I see a lot of other people, my peers, kind of going down this route where they kind of, people do videos and then the next thing you do, they're doing a podcast, or people are doing podcasts, the next thing you do, they're kind of doing videos, or they're doing written reviews. And I think that it's almost expected, if you're there for a while, that you're going to end up kind of doing at least 2 of the 3 kind of thing.
I do a mix. I had a podcast for a very long time. I'll probably have another one someday, because they're just different mediums, different audiences. A lot of people that like to follow me don't watch video, but they drive a lot, so they want something to listen to. And so we've discussed that, especially because I do feel like I have a pretty good perspective on things. So I do think I give some some relevance in a very crowded place. But the other thing that drives me a little bit batty is when people are so excited by any given success in noise, is that you just start seeing that same behavior of like tons of Kickstarter previews and everything they say is a million positives, and just everything that comes out is the best game they've ever played, and their top 10 is constantly from the last 2 years. And I think people get really, really excited and they lose focus a little bit. They go a little off the deep end, and they try and stretch into written review and podcast and video and live streaming on Twitch and that kind of thing, just you get numb to it. It's not exciting anymore.
Yeah, I think it becomes a job,
and it shouldn't be. At least for me and my purpose, it's never going to be a job. It's just going to be something for fun. Because I don't want to make games, so that's kind of like you either make games or you talk about games, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's always, and we always say this all the time, is that there's always, I think everybody's kind of usually got some kind of little game at some point that they're wanting to thinking, well, this could be the one that could maybe create something out of there. I mean, I'm under no illusion. This isn't never going to be a kind of a full-time gig for me.
I mean, and for 2 of the thousands of podcasts it could be, but the things you have to do and the backs you have to scratch and all the stuff that comes with it, it's just not how I want to live my life. Like, it's possible, but it doesn't sound fun at all. And it'll ruin gaming for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's every con. It's then when you've got a pile of games you've decided to review, because you've got to review these 5 games because you know that everybody else is on the same list that is going to be reviewing these 5 games, and if you don't put your reviews out, then you're going to be missing out on your viewer share. I see that. I don't know. It's not about. It's about being content with what you're doing, being content with your content, but knowing that you're saying, well, I don't particularly want to be working 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours every week in order to kind of get something out there, because I think it becomes fairly obvious if you can end up getting frustrated, you can end up getting stressed, I see for all the podcasts that start, for all the kind of the new media people that are putting out stuff, and you see six months down the line, they've just gone, they've just disappeared. And it's either down to the fact that they've realised that this isn't just a wading in and starting making lots of money through like a Patreon or something like that, or they get to 6 months and they just say, this is actually, you can't take a break, you can't take a rest, you can't take your foot off the pedal. I've kind of seen that with not really, I mean, we've always been okay with people, but with us moving house and not putting out as many episodes as we normally would, my interaction with everybody isn't as much as possible, and it's very easy to kind of feel that you've stepped off the highway down the slip road and you're having to play kind of catch up, which is kind of like a bit kind of strange. But it's just one of these, but it's kind of one of these things. Would you, I mean, so you're in this nice position then where you're just kind of able to produce stuff whenever you want to, kind of like master of your own domain, basically?
Yeah, a little bit. And I'm really lucky that the community kind of followed me from one thing to another. And I have friends in community pretty much on little corners of the internet. I had kind of an unfortunate, 2 computers and a camera and a lens in a row break this year. So the content I produced in the last 8 months is almost nil. But luckily everything is fixed again, and I'm just about to start recording again, and it just, and those things are such a huge setback for someone who works, it's just me. There's no backup team here. So
No.
But I have been extremely lucky in just meeting people and knowing the people I know, and I do every once in a while accept review copies, but I've unfortunately had the worst luck with review copies that I just don't think I want to do them ever again.
Well, you can't just say something like that and then not at least explain one of the worst lucks with some of the
Do you do review copies at all of things?
We've done a couple. I can't say. I mean, we had what was it, Darwin's Choice, but that's because I really like the artwork on the game. And then Sean Epperson asked us to review kind of Seals of Cthulhu, but we didn't review Seals of Cthulhu. I wrote a rant about why he didn't have any seals in his game, Seals of Cthulhu. But that's because I know Sean very, very well. And
that's so funny, you know all these Seattle people. What are you doing? Why aren't you over here? Sorry, I know Sean too, so that's great. No, I've probably in my life taken about 12 review copies total. And that's in somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 years, 7 years recording stuff. And almost every single time, the dates that we agree upon are not correct for when I'll receive the thing. And then every once in a while, by the time I get the thing into my hands, the Kickstarter is already live and they're wanting a quote for the Kickstarter. And I get so frustrated that my whole brain just shuts down. I just can't... Should I say something like I did? And Maggibot said, I haven't had the game yet. There's my quote. Well, and I'm so stressed because I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta put this on a table. Like, I personally, like, if it's I don't know, some games you can play once and kind of get the gist of it, I guess, but especially for complicated games, I want to play them at different player counts, and I want different accountings. I want people who have played before and new people, and I like to get a pretty well-rounded look at a game. And it drives me a little nuts to be like, oh, I guess I could play this once and give you a quote. It's going to be like, the pieces sure were pretty. I don't know what else to say.
Exactly. I really like the glue that you used to sticking down the obvious cut-out front page for the box art.
Well, and I like people, I'll post an Instagram picture of something I'm playing, and people are like, how'd you like the game? I'm like, I don't know, I just played it yesterday, give me a minute. Like, I need to think.
Exactly. Could I just, I'm going to have a cup of tea here.
I like to ruminate on the things I do to make sure that I believe the things I'm saying, because they get quoted back at you later.
No, and there's no way you can take them back. You'll see like a quote on Kickstarter, and you'll just be like, I didn't kind of mean to say that in the way that came out. That was kind of like the wrong part of the sentence that you took, kind of thing.
And a lot of the times you'll play a game once, and maybe you'll be enthralled by some thing that they did really neat, but then you play it 8 times, and boy howdy is that game boring or samey or whatever. So I think it's like premature to ask people for such early quotes on a game. But it doesn't matter. Like, people don't care anymore. Games only sell for the first 2 months they're out anyway. And I don't know, burn the world.
Burn the world and rugby tackles kids who are throwing foam eggs at things. No, I kind of think you're right in the terms, not the burn the world thing. Oh my word. I mean... Yeah, if you're gonna use that, make sure the kindling's really dry. I think there is this. We're in danger of falling down the same trap which the video game market throws down, which is that you get kind of reviews appearing. You get the day one review when the game's out before like the game's had a chance for people to settle in and find out if it's a really kind of long tail. I think you do see it with Kickstarter though. I think that there's been Anachrony, I think, springs to mind, where people are like, it's like 8 months down the line when the original kind of hype was about, and then people are actually saying, listen, this is really, really good. This is actually really good. Most of the folk that I've heard kind of talk about it have come back and said, no, you have to play this game because this is really, really good. And it had a buzz about it, but it's almost like there's a long tail buzz on some of the games out there, which I don't know if that must be a Kickstarter game, because I don't know if I would see that in retail. It was
definitely Kickstarter. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little trouble with Anachrony. I liked the game itself, but I don't like those kind of overblown, overproduced type games, and Anachrony definitely falls into that.
Yeah.
For a very simple game, like at its very core, the game is pretty simple. There's a lot of bits, there's a lot of setup, there's a lot of takedowns, so I had a little trouble with that. But I loved that little... I used to call them loans, but it was like your time travel thing where you like borrow from yourself.
Yeah.
I was just calling them loans because like in my head it was like a Martin Wallace game. And I could just take the loans. It was fine.
It's like payday resources.
That's exactly what it is, though. That's
it's
how
a payday
I would
resource,
describe it
isn't
to
it?
people.
There's a little, usually at the bottom of the card, and there's a small print that says, representative 2,500 million APR percentage kind of thing. You got to pay it all back. I'm going to wait to see. But, I mean, do you see, you being in the retail space yourself, okay, is it difficult to get games that are going from a Kickstarter to have that long tail into retail?
Yeah.
I mean, are they generally kind of gone within a kind of like a couple of months? Is that it? I mean, I see like look at Gloomhaven, for instance. Massive success.
Well,
Everybody really,
Gloomhaven
everybody
is the 1%. That's the anomaly, because it's doing really well at retail for no good reason. I like Gloomhaven, but that's like $100 million game. It weighs 20 pounds. It literally weighs it shipped its 21 pounds in its box. So that game shouldn't do well. But Isaac Childress, like, I don't know, he found that lightning in a bottle that one time. I will say that if a game is Kickstarter or not, most games really only have their first 2 months in retail. After that, they need an expansion, they need a new edition, they need some sort of new buzz, they need to be picked up by a national outlet, like an NPR or something. I'm talking United States specifically, of course, now, but they need something outside of the gaming hobby to pull more focus to it. Otherwise, games just don't last anymore. And I don't know that was that different that long ago, but it was certainly a longer tail than it has now. We do have those 1% games like your Power Grids, your Ticket to Rides, and those types of like evergreen titles that will just never die.
Yeah. Dixit. I always see Dixit. I was in the bookstore today, big chain, and they had Dixit on the shelf. They had Scotland Yard as well, and they also had Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and that was just like sitting there. They also had Fallout, the board game.
I've heard Fallout's actually really fun.
Yeah.
I've not played it yet.
I've heard it's really, really fun.
I played Outlive yesterday, and it got a lot of comparisons, so.
No, it was $70 roughly, so it was a bit of chunky change. I can see why it's been left, because I saw it I was in the same bookstore about 5-6 weeks ago, and it was there as well, and I think, do you know what's going to happen? This is it. This is going to be non people looking at board games next to the Harry Potter stand. So looking at the Harry Potter stand, they turn around and say, oh, well, what are these? And they see Dixit sitting there for like, $35, and then they go, oh, Fallout, I recognise Fallout, my son plays Fallout, and they pick up the box and they go, $70? You're having a laugh. It just gets thrown across the room.
I really think that licensed games, I think, and this is 90% of the time, because you're always going to have anomalies no matter what you do, but 90% of the time, a licensed game should be designed geared toward the everyman, the video gamer, or whatever the license comes from. You want that fan to enjoy the game the most. Not necessarily us 1% niche picky gamers who want like a million mechanisms and we want all these other things going on. I think like a Fallout game for $30 is like a no-brainer for a Fallout fan. But for $70, there's no way, right?
Well, that's more expensive than the actual video game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of video games. I play like things on my Switch. And so I don't know what things cost.
No, I mean, I kind of looked at it and I went, I know I'm going to come back in 6 months. And
it'll
that
be like
game,
clearanced out.
It's still going to be sitting it's still going to be sitting there at the full price, or it's going to be in a clearance thing. If it is on a clearance thing, I'd probably take a punt on it, because I have heard some very, very good very, very good things.
Oh, I've heard some very reliable opinions tell me that I should play it. I've never played a Fallout game. Yeah. So I was just not inclined to try it without, being in a con and someone putting it in front of me or something.
Yeah, I know. Because it's a risk, because there's so many games kind of kicking about. It's like, well, my time is precious to me. Am I sitting down, am I playing this game? Am I sitting down, am I kind of playing that game? Which is, sure. It's just like, and people are saying, well, there's two different types of board gamers nowadays. There's the board game collector, and there's the board game player. That there's a guy that has all the games that come out, and they have them, really, really well organized, and they have them, in shrink wrap, and they have them alphabetized or whatever. And then there's other person that has less games. They maybe have like 50, 60 games, but they're all getting played kind of multiple times, and this person is pruning their collection kind of as they go, which is always like really, really strange. So, for you said you're going to get back on the horse, not literally.
Yeah. Not a real horse per se, but
it's like a video camera type horse. it's got a video camera for a head. It's like Westworld. What kind of things? Are you going to go straight back into the reviews? I mean, is this a time for you to have some cogitation and reflection and maybe decide to do something a little bit different? Or are you just, look, I am just getting back on this horse and doing the stuff that I did before because I know there's an audience. And
I'm never going to be like a sketch type person, like, you know, like actual LOL or the Shut Up and Sit Down guys. They've got that covered.
Yeah.
And so the section of the internet that I seem to, at least I feel I have a good voice on, is playing some of the heavier stuff and giving my opinion about them and talking about teaching and strategy and kind of like maybe a little bit more of the background of the game, not just like, did I like it?
Yeah.
I feel like I go a little further into just like, how easy was it to teach? How many plays do you think you'll get out of it before the next thing comes your way? And really I found my audience. It's not a large, giant audience, but it is loyal and lovely, and we have really great conversations. I have one of the least toxic YouTube comment sections on earth. We always have really fun conversations about the games, about other things going on. I've had like full-on recommendation threads go through my YouTube comments. So like, I don't really feel like I'll change that part of it up, because I think no matter what I do, I want to keep what I built there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what kind of content I would want to do outside of what I already do, but, you know.
Yeah.
I always keep it open as something to think about, but I don't want to do rules. I hate rules videos. They're just a pain. I don't know if you ever made one. Oh, gosh.
I try to, and then I just stop doing it. I'm not doing this because I know I'm going to get something wrong.
And would you like to edit this for 16 hours? Of course you would. Like, because you have to make sure everything is correct.
Yeah, hats off to all the people that do it. As I say, it's like, you know, Rodney and Paul and, you know, just all these other people that are sitting there and going, and then you do this, and then you do that. And I'm like going, I'm so glad you exist, because I would...
Well, and every game I play has like 16 exceptions to every rule. So it'd be like, all right, now this should work this way, but let me tell you about all the times it doesn't. Cut to me like an hour later, just out of breath and tired.
I know. I feel like that'd be my 1.5 hour playthrough of how you play Love Letter.
By the end of it, you're just like, you have no hair, you've got 6 cups of coffee around you. I don't know what's going on anymore, but I swear it was a guard.
I've got a full beard. It's like, where's the princess? Just tell me where the princess is, please.
I didn't want to play this.
Stand up, flip the table, flip the bird at the camera. I've had enough. I'm going to start smoking again. See you later, kind of thing. But no, I mean, yeah, but it comes back, as I say, it comes back to the kind of the content thing. So, is this, are we going to expect something after Gen Con then? Are you doing a Gen Con video? Are you?
What I'm probably going to do literally after today is I'm going to record my thoughts from my Origins stuff, because I took lots of notes. Oh my god, so many notes. And so, like, I haven't done any Origins coverage, and I got to play a bunch of prototypes, which that's what I like to do at cons if I can. And Gen Con will be work, so I probably won't do a lot of coverage, but I will be going to Dice Tower Con in, 2 days? 2 days?
Wow.
Yes, 2 days. Yeah. I'm so tired. So I'll be there playing something, hopefully, seeing people. Every once in a while... I also contribute to, I don't know if you've ever seen Board Game Blender on the Dice Tower Network, but
yes.
Z's a friend of mine, so sometimes I'll throw a couple videos onto there, and I haven't done that in so long, so I'm gonna try and record a few and send those to him and surprise him, because he's like, do you do video anymore? And I was like, shut up, Z, I do video.
I do video all the time. I don't put it out there.
Just not on the internet.
It's just practice. I gotta practice.
The number of unedited videos I have in my world is many. I have recorded a lot of things.
It must be. Do you ever get ones where you just start recording and it's every 5 seconds you're having to stop because it's just not working out? Because I've had that.
Yeah.
I just like that. I hate this.
Every once in a while I get I get to the place where I don't really script. I don't like scripts. It's just not my thing. But I do like an outline. You know, I want to hit this. I want to hit this. I want to hit that. And I'll try and record them in that order. And I'll try and record them. I'll try and shift it around. And then just an hour later, I've done 6 takes and just nothing is working. And I will give up. I will. Right at that point.
So, if people are wanting to keep an eye on you,
Oh, gosh.
just like you should be watched, watch them. She's got into a lift, break it. Where can we find you on the interweb nets?
So, if you would just like to hear my ramblings and see pictures of board games and pinball machines, it's Maggibot, Maggibot, on Twitter, Facebook, Board Game Geek, Instagram, all the things. If you go to Maggibot.com, Maggibot.com, that is my YouTube channel. Yes. And then I have kind of a collaborative project that needs to also be rejiggered a little bit called Meeples Included. We have that at meeplesincluded.com on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I branded all these things just fine. So, you can just find all the things. We will be revamping, and I'm going to be recording a little bit later today, my first video back in quite a while.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to mention that because I saw it and I was like, oh, it's been a while and I just didn't want to go.
I'm so sorry. No, I can just tell you that life didn't want me to do recording, and then my camera didn't want me to do recording.
So there you go.
Yeah, it happens, but that's the benefit of it not being my job, so.
So you're just going to be jumping back on that as well, and Meeples Included.
It's a mixture of people, so it's a community. It's supposed to be focusing on board games first, with an attitude toward mindfulness, diversity, inclusivity. And I have all these fabulous people, but they got super busy, so I need to find more fabulous people, and then I will be launching that later this year. So that's like a plan. Next on the list.
something to look forward to. I have one more question. It's the only question. Yeah, it's the only question that ever gets written down that I've got to remind myself to do. Okay, here's a question for you. All right, you get stuck in a lift. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And before you were stuck in the lift, you were allowed to visit the biggest board game emporium in the world. The biggest board game emporium in the world has every single type of board game for you can ever want to play. First editions, second editions, expansions and everything like that, okay? Mm-hmm. You're now in a very, very spacious elevator and you realise you're going to be stuck there for a number of hours, but the people you're with are all friendly and chatty, and the mother figures there with the food, and somebody's brought drinks, and you know the elevator's all nice and air conditioned and everybody's a bit relaxed, and somebody's even brought a fold out table. You've got 3 board games in your bag or your purse or where depending on the side of the back pocket. What 3 board games have you brought?
Are they the number of players I would need for the board game?
Yes.
That the idea? Okay.
Anything at all. What if you could have a choice of any 3 board games to have in an elevator with a group of people? What 3 board games would you have? Any board games at all?
That's a really
no restrictions.
Good question. It's gonna take me a second. I'll get there. I'll talk until I get there.
That's fine.
I would need at least one, probably Kanban. I would make some gamers out of these people somehow.
Okay.
At Kanban first, I need a cribbage board and some cards. Okay. And some sort of like trick taking, like a Niet maybe.
Okay.
I think that's what I would do.
That's cool. That's fine. Excellent. Yeah, so you could just play for hours until, in fact, when the engineer turns up and opens his doors, you tell him to come down and they can join you.
Yeah, I would teach him the game too. I would probably gift him the games.
Exactly. We've been playing this in a cramped environment and somebody did start to smell a bit, so we had to, we're glad we're out of the place.
By the way, there was also a bathroom in this elevator. I'm just going to put that in there in my scenario in my head.
There was one of those Ziploc bags.
Oh, no. We've just got into a horror movie for now. Okay.
Just going to leave it there.
Have you ever answered this question?
What's that?
Have you ever answered this question?
No.
What were your 3 games?
What, my 3 games to take with me? if I was stuck in an elevator.
Uh-huh.
I would take Ashes, Rise of the Phoenix Born.
Okay.
I would take Catacombs 3rd edition.
Okay.
And I would also potentially take I think Dead of Winter, I think.
Ooh. A little betrayal in the elevator before you go.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I don't want to necessarily leave for these people as friends.
See, I was thinking like Dominant Species would be great, but no, I would not play Dominant Species in a closed environment.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. What I'll do is all the links that you give me, I'll make sure they go in the show notes so that we have notes to show. If you guys want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the Googles, search for We're Not Wizards. You will find us there. On Twitter at We're Not Wizards, on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. You'll find us on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. We're on YouTube at We're Not Wizards. We beg for things. Yeah, we got a Patreon. Just, but you can find us on all the podcast catchers like Podknife and Podbean and Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Player FM and all these fabulous, wonderful places. If you have enjoyed what you like tonight, please jump onto Apple Podcasts and consider dropping us a subscription, because that helps us very much indeed. If you like us even more, then consider giving us a rating or a review. If you are going to give us a rating or a review, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes me big-headed, and don't give me 1, because I'm an ugly crier. They give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. We are just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average is the rather fabulous, the rather wonderful Maggibot, or Marguerite Cottrell. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a lot of fun. And there's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards?
No.
Absolutely not. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Maggie. Say goodbye.
Bye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and make sure, it better be the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, to jump on and check out Maggie's content. Or check out the old stuff. Check out the first stuff.
Oh God, don't do that.
And work your way forward.
My top 100 of all time is like the coolest one.
Well, do that then. Check out the top 100. That'd be fantastic. But until the next time, goodbye.